So real quick, guy 720.
Right.
I was just gonna ask you because, like, the way that you kind of phrased that, particularly when you did your first answer, that's kind of trickish. But about 15
What do you mean
minutes ago, we was
trickish?
like if you leading with the wallet, right? Let's say you lead with your wallet, and then you saying that, all right, like you trying to show them things, and the money. You were definitely talking about money at that point, right? And
Well, in the
kinda,
beginning, as I said, I don't operate like that. I've never had to operate like that.
no,
So that's why
I'm
I
not
was
saying
trying to
you.
find out what the definition of the leverage and the value was, because
I'm not
I've
saying
never
you
operated.
operated like that. I'm just saying your philosophy is contrary, because like 15 minutes ago we was talking about, pimping, and this sounded like kind of tricking. So I was
What do you mean tricking though? I'm trying to
when you're
figure what
talking about.
he's predicating as
Easy
leverage
now,
or value.
easy now. As you gotta know that has your value as a man increased. So you now have more leverage than you had when you were younger.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, that's the main focus, is your finances, is your money. That's a mandate with existence. So of course, uh, um, yeah, my value has gone up. You know, was there an extension to the question?
Uh, do you feel like you now have more leverage now than you did when you were younger?
I go off the original rules. If she likes me, she likes me. I don't even play the game with trying to floss for a woman. You know what I'm saying? I look good. I keep myself because I have manners. I carry myself like when it's professionally in society. But yeah, it's never been a floss game for me with women. Like I said earlier, those are things that you should have been practicing on at 15, 16. So you'll learn, trial and error.
When you say floss, do you have to floss in order to get leverage?
Well, that's what leverage is, isn't it? You're showing social status symbols, right? Vehicle, expenses at going out repetitively. That's what how value is predicated in society, right?
No, I don't.
So I answered the leverage question from a different aspect. I didn't even a slight. I could see how you could get to the point where you're saying leverage is the things that they can see, so you could utilize those. But I was saying value as a man can be leveraged in a different way the older you get, right? So there's a
Oh, you
pleasure.
mean like mechanical understanding, fixing things around the house. If she gets sick, you're there for assistance. Is that what you're referring to?
So like the quiet power that you acquire through the confidence of being self-sufficient and the experience throughout life, then intermingle that with um the value that you provide as a man, that a woman can radiate, that it radiates from you, that attracts women to you. I think that grows as you grow as a man, where you have a presence about you, and it can attract all forms of women based off of the value. And it's not even just relegated to women. That value that you provide as a man also can it help you with networking, or help you uh just in all aspects of life.
So you're basically saying like your aura.
Your aura, for the
Oh,
intangible
okay,
side of
well,
things.
your aura is built off of the experiences you have in life and what you have attained. And that's what everything is truly balanced on. I'm trying to understand. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're saying, your leverage with a woman is going to be based upon, your masculinity or your manhood, right? Right. So that means any bloke, any male that just is standing on two legs, right? That's what you're saying. Like we all have that. No, we all have different experiences in what we can provide to the female and how we can secure her, you know. And if you don't have a certain amount of experiences or finances that can, you know, substitute for those experiences or whatever you're protecting, you know, then what do you have?
So real quick, guy 720.
Right.
I was just gonna ask you because, like, the way that you kind of phrase that, particularly when you did your first answer, that sound, you know, what I mean, kind of trickish. But you know, about
What
15
do you mean
minutes ago, we was
trickish?
talking. Like, if you leading with the wallet, right? Let's say you lead with your wallet, and then you saying that, all right, like you trying to show them things, and the money. You were definitely talking about money at that point, right? And
Well, in
that's
the
kind of.
beginning, as I said, I don't operate like that. I've never had to operate like that.
No,
So that's why
I'm
I
not
was
saying
trying to
you.
find out what the definition of the leverage and the value was, because
I'm not
I've
saying
never
you
operated.
operated like that. I'm just saying your philosophy is contrary, because like 15 minutes ago we was talking about, you know what I mean, pimping, and this sounded like kind of tricking. So I was
What do you mean tricking though? I'm trying to
when you
figure
talking
what
about.
he's predicating as
He's
leverage
not
or
fair. He's
value.
easy now.
I'm not.
No. I'm just talking about the philosophies. It's a bit contrary to what you were saying a little bit ago. That's all I'm saying, because this
What
what we were just
philosophy?
talking about from what you just gave right now, the way you explained it, it kind of sounded like you were leading with the wallet from what you described about the leverage.
No, I'm asking him how he's defining the value of man. Like he's stating that as we grow older, a man has a value. I'm trying to see what
Okay.
that value is. How are you balancing the value? How do you define the value? Because every man is not the same. So then you're talking about something that's average amongst all of us. That's where I'm trying to find out where the leverage and the value is at. You see what I'm saying?
Nah. But go ahead. Don't worry about it.
Then
So
He was saying
what
it's
is
a
the
question.
value
He
that,
was
let me
asking
ask
what
you
the
then,
question was.
what is the value that you give a woman as you grow older? That is what we were stating, right? Am I wrong?
so
Yeah, and
that
so the point between I know what Trev is asking. He's saying that if you, I don't want to go down this road, but if you got the ism in you, then you would never associate value with monetary. And the point y'all getting confused on is you weren't associating that with your value. You was asking, was that the definition of how you were defining value? Was it just finances?
Right, because that's how society operates. That's
Right.
not specifically how I operate.
no,
No,
and I
like I
wasn't
said,
even trying to. I wasn't trying to put that jacket on you or nothing. I was just saying the philosophy, like how you explained it, versus how,
well,
you know, what you were saying a few
Well,
moments
I mean,
before.
for the
That's all I
record,
was
we're
saying.
asking about how you and not necessarily society. So I'll make sure that I include that when I do ask the questions. But we want to know what you personally think.
what I personally think about value as a man when you grow older and what you can provide to a woman. You better have it. You better have some value, whether that's financially or your intelligence.
All right. Go ahead, KP. It's on you, bro.
Peace to the panel. All those answers sound provocative. When you over 50, if you got somebody that's cleaved to you, like I've said before, you can't put a dollar value on the things that you instill if you are that man. Your value is now embedded in that woman. Y'all are now a pair. That means if you lost all your money, she should be able to bear the weight. If you took sick, she should be able to wipe your ass. There's no longer a dollar value because this is going to be my life partner. I'm on the other side of 50. I hope that I've made the right decision, that I can see you to a grave or you see me to a grave, and we live the rest of our lives in a grand position. Men accrue wealth over time. That is attractive to many women. That's a given. But when you see the forest through the sleeves, is that woman the one that fix you a hot plate or ask you about your day rather than say, give me a want to lead the conversation, rather than ask for a Birkin bag of things that don't matter. Men over 50, the majority of them see the value in a person rather than the value in a dollar. And they know how to differentiate, the majority of them anyway. I'll leave it right there.
As far as a man of a certain age, man, look, they don't see value because your experience, your wisdom, and the knowledge that you're going to bring to the table. I mean, you know, hopefully you are financially in a good place and stable and set, you know, saying for what you are. But it's more than just about the money. It's about the experience that you bring, the knowledge, you know what I'm saying, a certain level of patience and understanding that you have in your late ages, you know what I'm saying, because you learn how to maneuver and operate and to get around, you know. But some, you know, I don't know, some people don't never learn that. That's unfortunate. And so if a woman is dealing with a man like that, it's a bad, you made a bad investment. But like I said again, for a man for a certain age, you ought to have these certain traits about you. Some of that stuff should have been shown before your late age, before you got to a certain age. Now the experience parts, well, that's going, you know, over time. But it's having some level of patience. Hopefully you have that when you do say I do with a woman. You know what I'm saying? Because you know, I think what's the average age right now is what, 29, 30 for us men to get married. So by then you have to have some level of patience that you're able to instill on a woman. I'll leave it there.
All right. Go ahead, Seth. It's on you. As you gotten older, has your value as a man increased? Do you feel like you now have the leverage you didn't have when you were younger?
Well, thanks for having me on, JR, and shout out to all the fellas on here. Big Will, Kenny P. It's good to see you, brothers. Yes, absolutely. Because as I've become older, I've obtained a lot more things financially, and I've also learned a lot in my life, like all these other brothers have been talking about, the bumps and bruises that we all go through as men. I think I'm in my 50s, so I'm the oldest brother on the panel, I'm assuming. And looking at when I was a younger brother in comparison to where I'm at now in my life, I've seen that my value has definitely exponentially gone up. Just as my ability to provide resources, take care of certain things that I couldn't do when I was much younger.
So at what age did you say that? Have you been feeling that same way since you've been in your 40s, your 30s, or did you start to notice the change when you was in your 50s?
So I always, Will and I were talking about this a while back. I always say like 40 was the magic number for me. So I joined the military, so I was out on my own early in my early 20s. But it's something about when I turned 40, fellas, that financially, it's almost like I really understood life, how things were operating. And I always say that my life has kind of been on autopilot ever since I've been 40.
Does that manifest in how women interact with you? Do you see a noticeable difference in pre-40 and post-40?
Yeah, well, I think too financially, we talk about these things too. I've started making a lot more money as I got older. So with that, I think that just women come naturally. Charles Barkley was joking with Kenny Smith one day, and Kenny Smith said, Charles, you're ugly, and Charles said, that's okay. I might be ugly, but I got money. So I got money. I'm always gonna have women, and that's always true to a certain extent. So as I've gotten older, I have noticed there have been more women.
Do you think if you were to remove the financial, not completely, but I don't know how much you make, but the financial leverage that what you gained as a man through your experience would still increase the amount of women or the way women operate with you?
I think some of it would fall off if I had to be fair, yeah. But I can't say for a fact, but I typically like to think that the women that I have dealt with, the woman that I'm with now, is not with me because of my money. It's because she likes me as a human being and how I treat her as a man.
Yeah, in my specific case, I think that the value increased, but so my skill set increased, my wisdom increased, my leadership capabilities increased, the income level at this point, I would say decreased, because there's a difference between trying to make millions and millions of dollars versus, not making millions and millions of dollars. So, and from that one standpoint, I would say it decreased. But when it comes to like available options or opportunities, that's women in this day and age, which is why I kind of say the things I say about the data market, to me seem more forward than ever, more willing to try to find or land a man than ever in my lifetime of experience. The amount of, I don't want to call it desperation, but it's another word for it, or for women that are actively trying to seek a man in this day and age. I think it's a lot. If they value you to Law Point earlier, if you're the type of man that they want, then they're willing to do damn near anything to make sure they can get you in their life or keep you in their life. The leverage from when I was young is different from that specific case. But if I was to answer in general, I would think most men gain the leverage the older they get. Probably 30 plus is when they actually have leverage. They secure in their careers, or they have managed to put some form of a nest egg to the side, and all the other things is applicable. The wisdom, the leadership, the self-sacrifice, all those things are things that you acquire as an older man for most people. And the experience necessary to be able to successfully lead a relationship, a family, or get to the next point is things that you had to go through your youth to get to 720 point earlier, from 14, 15, 16, 17, where you're learning how to talk to women adequately and how to, read the room and understand body language, understand cues, understand all the things that matriculate into being able to effectively communicate to get the desired results you want.
All right.
I agree. You know what I'm saying? And it's one of those things where I think, yeah, as you get older, your value does increase, because it's just different things that we all know. That's pretty much fact. A man's value increases with age and time, right? He's able to obtain different things like knowledge, wealth in some cases, you know what I mean? You get that life experience. Whereas, as a young man, you don't necessarily have that leverage, right? Your value isn't nearly as high. All you got is when you're young is a hard dick. You know what I'm saying? Like, and hopes and hopes. You know what I'm saying? That's all you really get. So value does increase the older that you get. And then the leverage that you have now is going to be, it's like he said, it's very different. Your leverage that you have now is going to be based on those things that you were able to attain, how wise you've become, what have you done in that time frame that will become attractive to a woman. You know what I mean? Those are some of the things that women are actually attracted to. It's some shit that you might have done. Kenny P in the building, what up?
So yeah, I'll say this.
That's my stance.
My bad. Okay. I would say it depends on what you mean by older men, right? So I do believe, like, if you're in your 40s, I'd say even like up to lower 50s, you have the ability to attract more women based on what it is most women are looking for. So what I normally see, and this is anecdotal, but women, because you have a lot of things that the gentleman mentioned, like of course, your wisdom, you'll be more financially established, and if you keep up with yourself, then yeah, you'll be able to access those women in your 20s you could have never got when you were 20, all the way up into the 50s, whatever, right? You pretty much had that on lock, right? As long as you were keeping up with yourself. Now, you can't look nasty and think that that's still gonna work. Some women will still get with you, but you just gotta really be concerned with their intentions. A lot of things. One thing we never really mentioned is that there's still a fall off, right? Men do have a wall also. If you start getting into like your 60s and all that, it's not just the older you get. So there's a drop off for sure. Once you up in the 60s and all that, your options become more and more limited, right? Not to say you won't get nothing, but you ain't gonna get nothing like you was 40s in your 60s. It's not the same, because there's only but so much wisdom you're really going to gain there's a certain amount, and we kind of get our peak in our 30s and 40s. That's where our peak market value is. But after that, there's also a fall off for men too.
All right.
Guess I'll go. No, my value has increased, but my leverage has always been the same. I've always dealt with women who weren't as intelligent as me. That's just a fact. I mean, women have always been drawn to my intellect, my wittiness, my humor. I've always possessed that. I've always been able to finagle my way around women since I was in high school. Now, I couldn't do it from a position of strength with finances. I couldn't do it from a position of strength with assets, but I was able to do it with the position of strength of the things they were looking for. When I was younger, women weren't looking for a man with assets. They weren't looking for a man necessarily with a lot of money. If you can make them smile, oh yeah, they in there. You can make them laugh, oh yeah, you in there. And I've always possessed that wit. I've always had that intelligence. And God just blessed me with the ability to speak well to women and know how to converse with them. So I've always had the leverage, but just not from a position of financial strength or assets. So no, but yes, my value has increased as I got older.
All right. What about you, Sherm? As you gotten older, has your value as a man increased? Do you feel like you now have the leverage you didn't have when you were younger?
I definitely feel like it does increase because the more you work, the more resources you will accustom, and the more resources you have, the more women you can attract, especially if it's publicly noted and people are aware of what you do and what you've been doing over time. You know what I mean? So if you've been grinding on one thing, achieved some goals, achieved material wealth and things like that, people are going to notice, and then your value is going to go up. So I definitely feel like that is true. And also, the older you get, like say a man in his 40s, now he could reach down and reach up a little bit as far as his choice of women. And then the older a man gets, the more women he will have to choose from. Hold on. The older a man gets, the more women he could also choose. So that also increases his value as well. So when you're 20, you could date, 20 to 18 or a little bit older. But when you 40, you could go all the way down to 25 through, 40 or whatever the age may be. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I definitely will say that.